King's English.
오늘은 앞서 공부한 약 200개의 단어를 테스트 및 복습하는 시간입니다. 단어의 의미가 바로 떠오르지 않으면 적어두었다가 다시 복습하시기 바랍니다. 시작합니다.
Frown, grimace. Frown, grimace. Retain, retention, sustain. Retain, retention, sustain. Q, Q. Q, Q. Tint, hue. Tint, hue. Project, projected, projection. Project, projected, projection. Lousy, horrible, awful. Lousy, horrible, awful. Coherent, incoherent. Coherent, incoherent. Apt, inept, apt. Apt, inept, apt. Reign, sovereign, sovereignty. Reign, sovereign, sovereignty. Sheer, pure. Sheer, pure. Violate, infringe, encroach. Violate, infringe, encroach. Engross, enthrall. Engross, enthrall. Dispensable, indispensable, essential. Dispensable, indispensable, essential. Give away, give way to. Give away, give way to. Placebo, placebo effect. Placebo, placebo effect. Afflict, inflict. Afflict, inflict. Intimidate, daunt. Intimidate, daunt. Shiver, shudder, quiver. Shiver, shudder, quiver. Bankrupt, insolvent. Bankrupt, insolvent. Supply, provide, furnish. Supply, provide, furnish. Domestic, domesticate, domesticated. Domestic, domesticate, domesticated. Suspect, doubt. Suspect, doubt. Commit, committed. Commit, committed. Humiliate, humiliation. Humiliate, humiliation. Fascinate, fascinating. Fascinate, fascinating. Obsess, obsessed. Obsess, obsessed. Constitute, constitution. Constitute, constitution. Mechanic, mechanism. Mechanic, mechanism. Emphasize, emphasis. Emphasize, emphasis. Infamous, notorious. Infamous, notorious. Earthquake, magnitude. Earthquake, magnitude. Endure, endurance. Endure, endurance. Constipation, diarrhea. Constipation, diarrhea. Nausea, indigestion. Nausea, indigestion. Defendant, plaintiff. defendant, plaintiff. Consider, considerable, inconsiderable. Consider, considerable, inconsiderable. Satiable, insatiable. Satiable, insatiable. Asthma, pneumonia. Asthma, pneumonia. Implicate, implication. Implicate, implication. Ethics, ethical. Ethics, ethical. Disciple, discipline. Disciple, discipline. Commence, commencement. Commence, commencement. Diminish, dwindle. Diminish, dwindle. Malevolent, benevolent. Malevolent, benevolent. Regard, contemplate. Regard, contemplate. Abrupt, abruptly. Abrupt, abruptly. Appreciate, depreciate. Appreciate, depreciate. Acquaint, acquaintance. Acquaint, acquaintance. Fluctuate, fluctuation. Fluctuate, fluctuation. Derive, deprive. Derive, deprive. Crash, clash, collide. Crash, clash, collide. Worse, worsen, deteriorate. Worse, worsen, deteriorate. Wreck, wreckage, debris. Wreck, wreckage, debris. Bring up, bring out, bring about. Bring up, bring out, bring about. Delegate, entrust. Delegate, entrust. Mandate, mandatory, imperative. Mandate, mandatory, imperative. Account, account for. Account, account for. Intrude, trespass. Intrude, trespass. Predict, prediction, predictable. Predict, prediction, predictable. Elate, elated. Elate, elated. Resign, resignation, retire. Resign, resignation, retire. Consecutive, inconsecutive. Consecutive, inconsecutive. Put aside, set aside. Put aside, set aside. Nuclear, radioactive. Nuclear, radioactive. Authorize, authorization, sanction. Authorize, authorization, sanction. In terms of, with regard to. In terms of, with regard to. Coordinate, subordinate. Coordinate, subordinate. Equator, equatorial. Equator, equatorial. Dexterous, dexterity. Dexterous, dexterity. Evident, obvious, apparent. Evident, obvious, apparent. In return for. in return for. Accept, exception, exceptional. Accept, exception, exceptional. Fossil, fossilize. Fossil, fossilize. Dignity, indignity. Dignity, indignity. In place, out of place. In place, out of place. Flourish, thrive. Flourish, thrive. Disrupt, disruption, disturb. Disrupt, disruption, disturb. Cognitive cognition. Cognitive cognition. Marvel, marvelous, fabulous. Marvel, marvelous, fabulous. Not to mention, needless to say, let alone. Not to mention, needless to say, let alone. Discrepancy, discordance. Discrepancy, discordance. Surmount, surmountable, insurmountable. Surmount, surmountable, insurmountable. Exploit, exploitation. Exploit, exploitation. Concern, concerned, concerning. Concern, concerned, concerning. Evaluate, appraise. Evaluate, appraise. Lateral, bilateral, multilateral. Lateral, bilateral, multilateral. Hydrate, dehydrate. Hydrate, dehydrate. Suffocate, stifle. Suffocate, stifle. Stubborn, arrogant. Stubborn, arrogant. Temper, lose temper. Temper, lose temper. Rational, rationalize. Rational, nationalize. Discriminate, discrimination. Discriminate, discrimination. Apprehend, apprehension. Apprehend, apprehension. Spontaneous, simultaneous. Spontaneous, simultaneous. Bureau, bureaucrat, bureaucracy. Bureau, bureaucrat, bureaucracy. Do without, do away with. Do without, do away with. Persist, persistence. Persist, persistence. Intermit, intermittent, intermission. Intermit, intermittent, intermission. And so on and so forth. And so on and so forth. Fascinate, attract. Fascinate, attract.
유용하게 보셨다면 구독, 알림 설정 부탁드려요.
King's English.